I'm Jake, you're watching Gas Guzzlers, and this is the 2022 Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross. Let's get into it. When taking a look at the exterior of the Eclipse Cross, we're going to start here at the front. This black Eclipse Cross badge is $110. The lighting here, there's a lot going on. All LEDs, as you would expect as you get above $30,000. You have these LED daytime running lights, which run up nice and thin right here. Then you have a housing right here for both your fog lights and your headlights. Our SEL model is also going to get automatic high beams. Now, this vehicle has the SEL Touring package. That's going to get you body color bumpers. In addition, the SEL Touring exterior package is going to get you these black corner extenders on the front and rear, which have these little red lines on them. At the side of the Eclipse Cross, I really appreciate this $595 red diamond paint. In addition, I think it looks good with the 18-inch wheels. That black adds a little contrast. Also adding a little contrast, the roof rails, which are part of the $2,100 SEL Touring package. Power folding mirrors. You can see if I unlock the vehicle, they will fold out. Of course, they have your turn signal in them, and they are also heated. Now, when it comes to the aesthetics of the vehicle, they've actually lengthened the vehicle by 5 inches, but they kept the wheelbase the same. That means they lengthened just the overhangs of the vehicle, and Mitsubishi says they did this for aesthetic purposes. Now, that meant they had to change the suspension of the vehicle because they changed the shape of it, and they've moved to a more advanced multi-link suspension system in the rear. Mitsubishi says that's going to help keep the vehicle kind of more planted as you're driving around. As I've driven it, I mean, this suspension has been pretty good. It's got a good ride, especially for the price point. I think most non-enthusiasts will definitely be happy with it. You all can let me know what you think about the aesthetics of this vehicle. I actually really like the side of it, but when I sent a picture of it to my roommate, he used a word that I cannot use in a YouTube video. So you all can let me know what you think of the looks of the Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross. Let's move around to the back. At the rear of the Eclipse Cross, I was actually a little bit concerned about visibility in this vehicle because of how thick this rear pillar is and because of how thin this window in the rear is. That has not been an issue in my short time driving around with it, so that is some good news. You do have kind of this fake little carbon diffuser down here, which is kind of neat. I actually kind of like it with the red. I'd be interested to see how it works with other colors. Now, opening the tailgate, it is a manual tailgate. It's very angry right there. Looking in the rear right here, they've actually done a pretty nice job. You know, you can't expect too many rear gimmicks at the $35,000 price range, but they've done some nice things that are pretty useful back here. For example, the floor mat is reversible to reveal kind of a rubberized surface if you want to put a dog back here, or, you know, maybe the kids were running around the mud and you want to throw them back here because you don't want to get your nice leather all messed up. $295 option to get this roadside safety kit along with the aluminum pedals up front, so that's kind of cool, and $195 for the pull-out tonneau cover. Now, you can get about 23.4 cubic feet of space back here with this second row up. You can put this second row down, that's going to give you 50.1 cubic feet of space. But there's something a little bit annoying about that, and that's this. When you go to pull the shoulder button to push this forward, it's not spring-loaded like it is in a lot of cars. Like, you pull the lever and the seat doesn't fling forward to give you that space. You have to really push and lean in. See, even there. Ugh. There we go, and now it's not even all the way down, it's just kind of halfway. So it'd be nice to have a spring-loaded function there like a lot of vehicles do. Something else I've noticed is that you have this seat belt right here in the rear that goes to be, you know, it clicks over in the front to be the seatbelt for this passenger. And that requires clicking into a second little holder. And that second little holder doesn't have the big red push button. You have to use a key. If you know what I'm talking about from like old minivans. But a lot of vehicles now have proximity keys, so you don't have a key easily accessible always to push that and unlock this seatbelt right here if you want to put this row down. That's not a problem specific to this vehicle. It's just one that I'm thinking of. You know, I'm not picking on this one in particular. A lot of vehicles are going to have this issue now, I'm realizing. Now, looking under the hood of the Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross, we're going to find a 1.5 liter turbocharged engine putting out around 152 horsepower and 184 pound-feet of torque. That power is routed through a CVT, and then that can go 2 or all 4 wheels. Any trim can add all-wheel drive for $1,600. You can expect around 25 miles to the gallon combined in this vehicle. And one thing that's kind of interesting is when you get out of the car, it shows you a little plant, and the more leaves the plant has, the more efficiently you drove. That's kind of a neat little feature. One thing that's not so neat, again, I mentioned this while in kind of that first drive, is it's pretty loud in the cabin. You can hear that 1.5 liter engine definitely working hard, especially the CVT doesn't help because it keeps it kind of drudging on in those revs. And there's just not a lot of MBH material in here. So that's just something to consider. Do I think this vehicle is underpowered with that little 4-cylinder? No, it hasn't caused any problems for me yet. As I continue to drive, I will update you if I run into any, but I don't think I will. Let's talk driver assistance. All Eclipse Crosses are going to come standard with forward collision warning with pedestrian detection. Our SEL model is going to add blind spot monitoring with rear cross traffic alert, and then the $2,100 SEL Touring package is going to add adaptive cruise control. Now let's talk about the interior. It's really a mixed bag here. This screen, it looks like a Mattel toy for kids. They use stickers instead of like proper badging in a lot of places, including for the premium sound system that doesn't feel so premium when it just has a sticker there like that. The shifter does not feel good. It's not confidence inspiring. The USB ports, the white plastic in them is already starting to yellow, and the plastic down here in your center area is already all scratched up and gross. So that is not a great start. However, all the buttons are really big and easy to press, which is nice. Everything's in a really intuitive spot. I've never had to really search around a lot. The only thing I've had to search around for is the camera button, which by the way is located right here on the steering wheel. But otherwise, everything else I've been able to find first try in this vehicle. Big chunky buttons for your heated seats. All your climate controls are right here. They're not buried in this menu. Your cup holders have the physical nubs that we love to see. So a lot of things here were done right. I think if $20–30 went into some better materials here, that could really have gone a long way. In addition, you have this cheap carbon fiber. You might be, let me get my mic close to that so you can hear it. That carbon fiber doesn't feel very good. This is kind of a soft touch injection molded plastic, which is nice. And on the sides of your doors, you have more of that scratched up glossy black plastic, and you have some of that more fake carbon fiber material. So not great impressions there. However, the layout's really good, and I do think that it at least passes for the price point. One really redeeming feature of this interior is the seats. I really like the leather that they use in them. The white contrast stitching looks good, and they're generally very comfortable. The amount of padding used in them is appropriate. I don't feel like I'm completely sinking in like I do on some Nissans, but then it's also not so stiff like a lot of other vehicles. It's just a really nice in-between that they've achieved here. I really like the seats, and they are power adjustable and heated on this model. Now in the rear of the vehicle, this is a really nice area. I'm going to start with really my only downsides for this rear right here. First is no air vents in the back right here. It would be really nice to have air vents back here. I'd expect that at this price point. When I was really young, I remember going for a road trip in Yellowstone National Park, and we were in some rental. It was a Chevy Equinox, and there were no air vents in the back. And I just remember 9-year-old Jake was miserable and probably made the trip much more annoying for his parents as we were driving that long distance. So air vents in the back, always nice in a vehicle that's probably going to have a lot of families buying it. In addition, it would be nice to have some USB outlets back here. You do have a cigarette lighter, so I imagine most people will just get one of those like cigarette lighter to USB converters and just plug it in there and never think about it, but it would be nice to have it from the factory. In addition, it could get a little dark back here because you have these really thick pillars in the back. However, Mitsubishi was very smart, and the seats are further ahead of that pillar, so you're actually only looking out the window, so you don't get too much of that effect. Unlike the Hyundai Santa Cruz, I remember that vehicle felt like a cave because the seats were back against the pillar, so you looked out to the side and you just saw black plastic. Mitsubishi has thought about that with the design of this vehicle, so the cave effect is definitely minimized. Now, a value pack feature of this vehicle is that $2,100 SEL Touring package. Let's talk about the good in the rear here. There is a lot of it, so I got my negatives out of the way. $2,100 package is going to have this dual panoramic sunroof, which looks really, really good. And my favorite feature of it is that they gave you a control for it back here. This is normally a feature you only see in high-end luxury cars to control the sunroof from the back, but you can at least control the shade, not the paint itself, from back here, which is a really nice feature. In addition, you do get 2 stage heated seats back here for the outboard passengers, that is, and you have your cigarette lighter, which again, you can convert. You do have a fold-out armrest, which does have no nubs in it, but it's still okay. It's a pretty small holder, so you probably won't need the nubs anyways. Would be a bonus feature if they put through like a ski pass through here, or if this middle seat folded individually and not 60/40. Legroom back here is exquisite. It is tremendous. This seat is way further back than I would reasonably sit as a passenger, as a 6 foot tall guy, and really I'm just fine. Another concern I had about this vehicle was, would I hit my head on the roof because of that slant in the back? Again, Mitsubishi kind of has these seats moved more forward than the slant, so it doesn't become a big problem. You can see I have plenty of legroom back here. Overall, I definitely give 2 thumbs up to this rear area. Add some air vents, and this would be a 10 out of 10. If you're liking the video, consider subscribing for more weekly automotive content. All right, let's get back into it. Now let's talk infotainment. This system here is pretty bare bones. You can see you have a day night mode toggle right there, so you can see you can make it dark or light. Now let's take a look at the navigation. This is probably the low point of the system. If we go into navigation, for some reason they chose this salmon off-color yellow as the background for the map. You're probably not going to be using this. You're probably going to be using your Android Auto and Apple CarPlay integration, which is fantastic for this car I have. You can see a little bit of glare there. That's kind of a result of this vehicle having a matte finish on the screen. This is a matte plastic. You can hear if I tap it, it's not like a glass on there. So it does feel a little bit cheap. The resolution is pretty low. However, you're probably gonna throw it on Android Auto or Apple CarPlay and just have your map up, and the glare won't matter too much. Your multimedia here, again, pretty bare bones, but most people in this vehicle, I'd imagine, are gonna be using that Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. But there are some neat features here. First of all, I wanna show you, you can see your fuel history information here. And you can also go back and have a live fuel consumption view up on the vehicle. In addition, one really nice feature of this vehicle is the camera system. It actually has a pretty nice camera system. You can see if I hit the camera button once, right now we're in park, so we have a view out the front and we have a 360 camera. If I hit the camera again, I can get a closer view to just see the front corner of the vehicle on the right side there, so that way I won't curve a tire. That's a really nice feature. I think they've done a pretty nice job for the price point on the system. It's really easy to use. It's quick. That's the most important thing, in my opinion, at this price point. If they fix that glare, they'd have a pretty darn good system here for the price point. In your gauge cluster, there is not a whole lot going on. You can see you have your speed dials right there, your tachometer and your speedometer, along with your fuel and temperature gauges. Really not a lot going on. You can change with the button on the center kind of console. You can change what mode your all-wheel drive system's in. You can see we have normal, snow, and gravel. This is an extremely basic screen. This is pretty much all you do with it. And when you turn the vehicle off, we're going to see that little eco meter right there. You can see we did very bad. We got no leafs on this drive. Now, this vehicle, being a top-end SEL model, does have a heads-up display, but you're saying, Jake, I don't see a heads-up display. Where is it? Well, folks, watch this. With the push of a button, it rises up out of the dash. Yes, this has the much older style heads-up display with this second pane of glass, and frankly, I find this kind of just a gimmick, because this is just like looking down at your gauges when you have a separate dash right there, essentially. I find this second piece of glass rather distracting. For reference, for those of you who maybe aren't aware of heads-up display systems, most vehicles will project that 0 miles per hour right onto the windshield. And then it's kind of useful because you're looking at the road and your speed or whatever information you need is projected right there, kind of on the road, on your windshield. But in this case, it's projected on the secondary pane of glass. And I'm kind of like, well, what's the point of that when right there are your gauges? So I don't know. You all can let me know what you think about doing a heads-up display this way. I think there's a reason most automakers have moved to just do it right on the windshield, and that's probably the better way to do it. This does give you some information in addition to your speed. For example, if I open a door here, you'll see we'll get a door open warning. That is actually has some color to it, which is rather nice. But other than that, I think of this heads-up display more of as a gimmick, and I would probably be keeping it in the down position. The thing I've noticed as I'm driving on these smaller back roads, first of all, is the ride I actually do really like. You can tell that they have some more of that improved suspension going on in the rear. They moved to that multi-link suspension system, and it's handling these bumps pretty well, actually, better than I expected, so that's a pleasant surprise. Now, in addition, there are a few other driving features I've noticed that I don't like so much, and a lot of that comes down to the steering. This vehicle's steering is far too light for my liking. Now, this is a big preference thing. Some people like to be able to turn the wheel with their pinky like that. I do not. I like a little more resistance. This is some of the lighter steering I have felt in a while, and as I'm going around these curves, it's just very vague. You can see as I twist the wheel like this, not a whole lot happening. We're just keeping on dead center here. So I would like something a little more kind of dead on center, a little more feeling to the steering. Again, however, this could be a preference thing. If you really like that light steering, then this vehicle may be for you. Driving along, there are just a few other features I've noticed. I want to talk a little bit about the switch gear. Now, when I got in this car, I noticed I really like that red lighting in the radio and whatnot, instead of like the traditional orange, green, or blue that a lot of automakers use. Kind of the older Japanese cars and BMWs use like this red, and I really like that. There is some problems though. For example, on the parking brake, the light is too dim. So on a sunny day like today, you can't tell if your parking brake's on or not until you push the button right there. There are some switch gears I like in this. For example, you have 4 window controls up front. Now, usually that's not a feature. However, after driving the Volkswagen ID4, I've learned apparently it is too much to ask for an automaker to put 4 buttons to control your windows in the front, instead of 2 and a button that switches control between the front windows and the rear windows. Volkswagen did that. Mitsubishi, good job on not doing that. What Mitsubishi has done is they've included 4 window buttons that are all automatic windows, which is really nice. So it's just one touch up, down for the back and the front. You can see, wow, we are really hitting some bumpy roads right here, and the vehicle is handling them quite well. In addition, the paddle shifters feel actually much better than I thought they would. In fact, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say they feel better than Audi's. Now, that's not saying a lot because, frankly, Audi's paddle shifters suck. They're plastic. They don't feel good at all, at least the last Audi I was in. However, this vehicle has very large paddle shifters. They're metal from the best I can tell, and they actually have a really solid click to them. Too bad they're just controlling that CVT and not an actual, automatic planetary transmission. One thing that has really pleasantly surprised me about this vehicle is the engine. I did not think this little 1.5 liter 4-cylinder engine was going to be enough. However, I'm going up this pretty steep grade here, and it is actually doing quite well by its own. So really impressed with this little engine. I feel like even if I had 3 large, 170-pound friends in here, feels like the vehicle definitely has enough power to get that job done. Even with gear and whatnot, I think that you're not going to be at a loss of power with this vehicle, which is a really nice surprise to me. I wish I could tell you all some more about the all-wheel drive system. For a vehicle to have all-wheel drive for just a $1,600 option at any trim level, that's a pretty unique thing. A lot of automakers make you go up to a higher trim or whatnot before you can get that all-wheel drive system, but Mitsubishi lets you from any trim equip that $1,600 all-wheel drive. And it only has 3 modes. Sure, it's not the most advanced version in the world of all-wheel drive. However, I think that it's a really nice option for an SUV vehicle like this. A lot of people are probably going to go to the ski lodge or something like that in this vehicle. Or there's, lots of wet leaves and slippery stuff maybe on their driveway. And in some scenarios, it is nice to have that all-wheel drive confidence. So I would like to be given a scenario where I could test that all-wheel drive system on this vehicle. Hopefully in the future, we'll get a chance to maybe find a nice off-roading place to take vehicles with all-wheel drive.
Can I recommend the Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross? Yes, Mitsubishi has definitely made strides in recent years. This vehicle has a good warranty. It's got a decent amount of power. It drives fine for your average consumer, and the interior actually impressed me in some ways. Even though it had some quality issues, none of them were ones I would think of as deal breakers. None of the things felt like they were gonna break. Sure, they felt cheap, but none of the things in there felt like they were gonna snap off, except for the turn signal. But everything else felt pretty good. The driving is fine. That's a new suspension setup is working, and the looks, yeah, they're a little out there, but you know what? It's something different than every RAV4 and CR-V that you see on the road. This is something that's a little more eye-catching. If you want to stand out, this might be the vehicle for you. You guys can let me know what you think about the Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross. Do you think that you would buy one? Do you think you'd recommend one? Would you take this or the more traditional, maybe RAV4? Let me know in the comments below, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. Take care, and we'll see you in next week's video.